What's up, everybody? You are now tuned in to The Most Vulnerable Player, the MVP podcast. This is episode 9. Yeah.
Consistency.
Bro, I'm trying. You know, a crazy stat, bro, is it's like, I want to say like maybe close to like 90%. Like, I could be wrong, but from what I've heard, like 90% of podcasts don't make it past like the 10th episode. So like,
You're right around that corner.
Yeah, bro. So if like my camera breaks like the next day, imagine just like don't get to that 10. But
she's like, all right, we're retired.
Yeah.
Nah, but you're right there.
Yeah, that's I think that was my main goal though. I was like, let me just hit 10, and then from there I'll try to get to 20, and then 50, 100.
Yeah, 10.
Just keep going. Yeah. Today we have my cousin, Demetrius Persall. Say what's up to everybody.
What's up? Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir.
Pleasure.
It was a long-awaited guest, actually, bro. We've talked about doing this for a good minute. Well, you're a busy man, so it's good that we're able to finally sit down and
find the time to actually make it happen.
Yeah, bro. Because I mean, you've especially in the past month, you've had a lot going on with like your business and everything, bro. So
yeah, it's definitely kind of tough to find that time that works for everybody. But yeah, I'm glad that we were able to plan something out. Yeah, last week we were planning on making it happen, and it was like, oh, this came up, Tristan's birthday, Nikki's birthday, and I was just like, okay, like we'll push it back another week and play it by ear. But yeah, thankfully we're here now. So.
Yeah. So who's Demetrius, bro? How would you describe yourself, or how it's basically if you're introducing yourself, like who's Demetrius?
So like right now, I guess you could say like an entrepreneur. I run and operate my business here right by the airport. So I sell sneakers, streetwear, apparel. I clean shoes, make shoes. Pretty much try to be a man of all trades when it comes to anything sneaker related. Other than that, I mean, I try to keep my ventures open. I buy cars, I sell cars, anything that really piques my interest, I tend to just like dive head first and try to go all in. And I just kind of have always lived that way. But I mean, I move around a lot. So that's, I think, one thing that kind of differentiates me from a lot of other people of my age. So I guess that could be like, who is Demetrius? Just kind of, I like to think that I have a pretty good network kind of wherever I go, whether I'm here or where I was living in the past, Vegas, Denver. Just try to do good business with people and have that good network with good communication. So
is having that network, is that something you actively try to do or try to seek out, or is it just something that kind of comes natural to you?
I think for a lot of people, like having a network, how they always say like your network is your net worth. So like most people will tend to go out and like seek somebody of value to then bring into like their network. But I never really kind of thought about it that way. How it kind of happened that I just started making better business relationships with people and doing better business with people, that the trust was gained. And I just thankfully, like, God blessed me to put me in a position where I'm kind of talking to different people on a day-to-day basis, and everybody kind of brings some value to the table regardless of what they do. So I mean, it just kind of fell into my lap. And I think I've always kind of been a people person. I always kind of take people's feelings into consideration and just always want to see like what somebody else can bring to the table as well as myself. So I think that's kind of what grew it into what it is today, just having people that are in your corner when you need them there. So
yeah, you really never realize like how important it is, like having even just friends or just people that you know. Like, it's always good just to, like you said, expand your network, because you never know just who that person might be in your life, or you guys could end up doing like something like pretty big together, or there could be somebody that you learn from that before you met them you may not have realized that. So
exactly, yeah. And I think there's many times where I've kind of came into like a communication with somebody and not knew what the reason was for meeting them, or like why that interaction may have happened. But later down the line, it's like, oh snap, like this came up and I need to find somebody that can make it happen. And I remember that I met this guy a couple weeks back, and it's what he did. So it's like, oh, let me just call him up real quick. And if it works out, it works out. And I think that just happens more and more often now, that I just kind of see every conversation as just as like a building block. Like everybody has something that they specialize in. So
yeah,
I think like how most people think, it's like, oh, like if anything sneaker related comes up or they spill a drink on their shoe, it's like first person that they want to come to mind is me. So it's like I think I bring that value to the table, and just like a good connection to have whenever your shoes need help. So.
Yeah, for sure. You grew up in El Paso, right? And you said you moved around like throughout like when you were growing up?
Yeah, pretty much born and raised in El Paso. I was military, like a military child, so both my parents were active Air Force. It was always somewhere new every 2 to 3 years, or whenever one of them was getting a promotion or things of that sort. So I lived here for a little bit. I was born here, lived here for a little bit, San Antonio, came back, and then from there it was just like back and forth. But somehow we always kind of made it back here. So yeah, I lived here, Vegas, Denver, a little bit in San Antonio. And then yeah, just after the whole Denver thing, my freshman year, I just kind of decided like, no, like I don't really want to keep moving back and forth. Like I just kind of want to finish high school in one place and have the same friends. And
what did being in just so many different just locations and just kind of moving around as you were growing up, what kind of experiences do you think that provided you, and do you think it helped you in certain ways, and maybe in some ways it hindered some things? But what was that experience like? What do you think you took from that?
I think it was definitely like a life-changing experience for sure, and I value just that whole time frame in itself, just because it was out of my control. Like regardless if I wanted to be comfortable or uncomfortable, I had to be uncomfortable. And I think that just kind of helped me grow a lot faster, interact with a lot more people compared to my peers who just kind of always grew up around the same people that they've always known. And yeah, it kind of taught me more about the culture, taught me that not everybody out here is like me, raised like me, think like me. And I think that was like a big eye-opener, just because I feel like when you're growing up as a kid, it's like subconsciously you think everybody has that same upbringing, everybody has those same experiences that make them who they make them, and that's just not the case. Like everybody's going through something else that you may not even know, and I think that's what makes them who they are. And so I think definitely being uncomfortable taught me a lot.
I could definitely see that, because I mean, for someone like just forcing you to move, like going to other places and really it not being in your control, I mean, it forces you to make different friends, just try to fit in, because at the end of the day, like as much as we don't want to admit it, like humans always just try to fit into whatever community. Yeah, exactly. I mean, you don't want to be like the odd man out. Yeah. Exactly. So I mean, that's a challenge in itself. And then when you're constantly just moving, it's like really just doing that over and over again. And
yeah, I was just always constantly being like the new kid.
Yeah.
Like, I remember just like starting a new school, and like there's always those kids that are like, oh, like who are you? Like let me take you around school. Like let me show you how I do things. Like these are my friends. Like and I mean I already knew like what to expect, because I had already been the new kid like 7 times.
I've always wanted to be the new kid, bro. I feel like that was low key. Like I mean, at least
it's like you're a little celebrity at some point. It's like, especially if you pop in like midway or end of the year, they're just like, who is this kid? And so yeah, I thought it would. I mean, it came to a point where it was like after the 3rd, 4th time of being the new kid, like the fear of being a new kid really was like out the window. I already knew what to expect for the most part. Like there's gonna be somebody that's like gonna take me under their wing and show me who their friends are, and I'm not really gonna like me sitting alone at lunch. Like hopefully it doesn't happen, but like but little things like that, it was just like people would come like, oh, like, what's your name? It's like, to be honest, I don't even want to introduce myself. Like, I don't know how long I'm gonna be here. Like, I'll probably dip out in a couple months and be in a new city. So yeah, I think that was just like the funny. It was funny to think about that. It was just like so repetitive in a sense, but I think it definitely, like, meeting new people and everything like that, it was just sometimes I still talk to them today, so just having that network.
I definitely think it has some positive effects. At the same time, like just thinking about it now, like, I wonder if it kind of affects somebody in a way. I'm not saying you, but like maybe it did, or maybe to some other people who did move around. Maybe someone who constantly is moving around has like maybe trouble identifying with not only other people but with actually who they are, because like you don't really get to
constantly trying to figure it out.
Like you trying to get to know like where you stand with people, and like if you're constantly just trying to fit in, like I feel like it's really hard to find yourself in a way, because I feel like
you're introduced to a new crowd, new culture. Like when I moved from here to Denver, it was like a complete culture shock. Like, I mean, like I went to a primarily like Mexican dominant school, and like, I mean, over here in El Paso, like I was still at a decent reading and grade level. I had decent grades, things of that sort. But when I moved over there, it was like I was a fucking golden child. Like, really? Like valedictorian in my class, and just like, I mean, like these kids were like, yo, like, how are you so smart? And it's like, bro, like I just did the homework. Like I like there's like it's not really much to it, bro. Like it wasn't too difficult. And like I just think it was like a big shock that it was like there's so much of a difference just by living in a different place, that I was just like mind blown at the fact that I like tested out of all my high school classes freshman year, and like I didn't do literally anything different than what I did here.
Damn.
So I was just like, okay, well, something's a little bit different with like the grading schedule and things. But
so like speaking about, I mean, we talked about like identity and just like finding yourself and stuff. So I feel like before you started Eternal, I feel like I remember you talking about just how there's definitely a period in your life where you felt lost. I would say like lost is the word.
Yeah, for sure.
Either, I don't know, was it before high school or after high school, or like right when you graduated? But can you kind of take me through that time in your life? Like, what was that time like? Because I think a lot of people do go through that, and it's definitely a scary thing when you're kind of in the midst of it, right?
Yeah, I think we can kind of like take it back to high school. I think I really didn't end up like truly figuring things out until after high school and things of that sort. But yeah, like even throughout high school, like I was always a baseball player. Like that was my primary sport. And then like from there, like I went to high school in my sophomore, junior year. I just ended up like, all right, like I don't want to do this anymore. I just like completely lost like love for it, and then like changed gears into golf. And it was just something that I had never played before. I was terrible at, but it just like piqued my interest because of how much I sucked at it. That it was like I've never like been bad at anything like that, like sport wise, that I was like, why can't I hit this ball? Like I could hit a 70 mile an hour, 80 mile an hour fastball, but I can't hit something that's on the floor. Like so like changing gears into that, and like I said, I go like full throttle head first into like my decisions and my like interests, that it was like, okay, like I'm changing from baseball, and I just went 110% into golf. Like started working at a golf course. Like it was eat, sleep, everything golf. And then I don't know, like after that in high school, I kind of ended up like seeing people getting bigger, and just like always like, why can't I like put on size? Like everybody's growing, and like all the football players are getting big, and like
so you were kind of skinny.
Yeah, I was just like skinny and like short. Like I mean, you walk right past me, like nothing that you haven't seen before, you know. Like so I was just like, yo, like everybody else is getting bigger. Like what are they doing that I'm not doing? And then that's what kind of like piqued my interest again. And I was like, okay, well, like I already got good at golf, but like now I'm like interested in this. So yeah, I started going to show offs, and then from there, I just 110% into the gym.
That's the pattern I see is like you said, you have like initial interest and it feels like you just kind of go like full on into it.
Yeah, and I think it's been like that since I was little. Like my mom's always said that too. Like, all right, I wanted to be a skateboarder. Like it was eat, sleep, work, skateboard. Like, and then I'm into magic and just eat, sleep, fucking magic. Like, so my mom and dad had always known that that's just how I function, I guess. Like subconsciously, I don't choose to, but it's just like I want to like be as good as possible at something. So yeah, like I transitioned into the gym and I was still small and I was just like I needed help. So I was like, okay, well, there's this guy and he's a year older than me and this guy looks like he can eat me. Like this, he's fucking jacked. So I was like, all right, well, like apparently he hasn't figured it out. Like I'll talk to him. And that's when I ended up meeting like one of my best friends, Richard. And honestly, that's kind of what like set the match off. Just because in my head, I had always seen people like competing and just getting big and looking good, feeling good. And I was like, all right, like that's cool, but I don't know the steps that it takes to get to that point. Like, I don't think I can get to that point that I was like, look, like I need help. I know that I don't look like I can do it, but like I'm telling you, like I'm willing to do it. Like I wanted to like trust in you to just coach me. And he was like, all right, well.
Was he coaching at that time? Or he was just,
so he was like 16, 17, full trainer. Like, I mean, Richard's always been very mature, and I think that's what, like, yeah, made me want him to just coach me and just, like, give me the guidance that he had figured out that I was like, okay, well, he's 16, 17. He has a ton of clients. Like, he does this full time. He competes. He still goes to school. Like, he has his girl. And I was just like, all right, well, this is not a kid, bro. Like I'm like, this is a grown man that I just like wanted to be of that value and just of that like feel that good about myself. And I was like, okay, well, like what do I need to do? And then from there, he just told me like straight up, like, look, bro, like it's gonna take time. Like you're not anywhere near competition ready. It's gonna take 2 to 3 years of you just like fully committed. And it was just something that I signed up for, and I was working at show-offs too, so to go again like 110%. Like when I wasn't working out, I was working there, so I was still eating healthy, like eating the meals at the gym.
You just surrounded yourself in that, like you just put yourself in that environment.
And I think that's something that I learned early on too. Just my mom was always big into like motivational speakers and just trying to find the knowledge that she didn't have. That like she would go to like sermons and just, oh, like a multimillionaire is coming into town and like I just want to hear him speak. Like and like one of the advice that she had given me when I was very young that it just kind of like stayed with me was like, you're a direct representation of the top 5 people that you always hang around. And it's just like that just kind of resonated with me because it's true. Like if you don't want to be put in that same category, then you need to kind of step it up a notch and like have people that are sparking that interest that know more than you know.
For sure.
I mean, you definitely can't be the smartest one in the room of your friends because then you're in the wrong room. And I just think learning that info early on is just something that I always like kept close to me. And like a direct example of that was Richard, and it was like, well, he's my age and he knows more than I know. So
and that takes a lot. Like that takes for you to actually like approach this guy. And like maybe did you know him from before? Like
no, like we had mutual friends, but it still wasn't like something that I was comfortable with. Like I mean, being like the smallest guy and just like not in the best shape. And I mean, I was expecting a laugh in my face, like, because I mean, I didn't go up like, oh, like I want you to coach me. Like it was like, yo, like I want to compete. Like I want to step on stage, like the same way that you're practicing your posing routine. Like I want to do that. And then like he just kind of took me under his wing, and I was like his guy for the next 2 years. That he just like, we put blood, sweat, and tears into that prep, and it was just, it really showed me that I could literally do anything. Like regardless of how impossible I thought it was. Like in a 2 to 3 year prep of just like constantly keeping it in the back of my head of like, this is the vision that I wanted and this is what I wanted to accomplish. And like we ended up going to the competition and accomplished everything that we had like set out for the 2 years before. And I just thought it was just like a huge milestone that'll like forever stay with me. And like I just take that scenario with me in every aspect. Like with the business, it's like you got to be prepared. You got to have the blueprint set out. We had the blueprint set out for 2 to 3 years before I had 10 to 15 minutes on stage, and that was really all we worked for.
Yeah.
But the fact that like we were that prepared and that set up for success is like what it takes, you know. Like, and if somebody's beating you, it's probably because they outworked you, nothing else other than that. So I see it now, especially like with the business and like how well it's scaling, and it's kind of hard to grasp everything at once. And like having that team and just like having that blueprint of like, all right, this is the plan for the week, next week shift gears, and this is the plan for the next week. And it just helps keep things a little more dialed in.
And like I was saying, it takes a lot for someone to like acknowledge, like, I don't know shit about this, I have no experience, in your example, like, you're really small, and just to go up to somebody and just like acknowledge that he knows more than me. I mean, let me just learn from him, you know. Like some people have too much ego for that, and like they're not.
You have to accept it. It's just like, because you're not the best.
And there's so many people, even if they're close in age to you, like that you can learn so much from if you just like open your mind a little bit to being a beginner at something, and really just accepting that knowledge and stuff. Because I mean, you've done that multiple times, right? You did that with baseball, you did that with golf. Like, you weren't afraid to start from scratch at something and really just build
it out. And
I think, and something I hear like a lot from people is that some of their worst fear is starting from scratch. So like, let's just say you're putting your blood, sweat, and tears into something, and it doesn't like pan out to what you hope it to be. Like, some people, that starting from scratch is what like scares a lot of people away, you know. But being able to, like, you've done that multiple times, and being used to being a beginner at something, I think is like huge, because it doesn't scare you from trying different things. And
I think it just goes back to like how we were talking about like earlier on, just being uncomfortable. Like, I did have to start from scratch at school 7 times. That it's like, okay, like I've been here before, and I think it just makes things more fun. Like I like when I don't understand something, or I like when I don't have the answer to something, because it's like, all right, I have something that I can work to figure out. Like, and I just think that's really how I'm like wired subconsciously without like realizing it. And until like we go back and like reminisce on like how the sequence of events happened, that's
crazy, bro, because you really just started, like, you had to start from scratch like so consistently throughout your whole life, right? So
so like even when it's like sports related, it's like, okay, like I suck at this, I know nothing about this sport, but I just want to be a sponge and just like take in what I have. And like even with golf, like I was every day sitting there with the pros, like for the pro shop, and just asking them like, okay, well, what club do I use at this range, or like what advice can you give me if I'm hitting this type of shot, or like rather than hitting a driver on this one, like should I just like club down and hit a 3-wood and give myself something that can give me a better distance. And just like picking their brain and seeing, like, saving myself the time of making the same mistakes. It's like, okay, like I've played this hole and I keep making the same mistakes. Like, how do you play this hole? Like, and he might choose 3 completely different clubs than me, and it's like I've never even thought about playing that hole that way. And you do that, and the complete series of the course changes. So I think that was like something that I've always just kind of had that interest in, is just, all right, like asking questions and figuring out like why you do what you do. But that's with everything, like golf and sports and business.
Well, something that like I've heard and I always think about is like intelligence isn't always knowing the answer, it's knowing who to go to and where to find the answer. So like you don't have to know everything, but it really helps when you have the presence of mind to know where to go to be able to find that. So I mean,
and I think that just ties back in with the network of having that outreach of like literally how you said, like, I don't know the answer to this, but the homie might. So let me text him up and just see, like, all right, well, have you talked to anybody that, I mean, tax advice or whatever? And it's like, all right, like, I'm no pro at that, but I mean, there's multiple people that come into the shop that specialize in taxes or work for a tax company that can point me somewhere in the right direction. So I think just utilizing that is always a good thing to do. But
so we fast forward a little bit, and you got into like competing, and then you ended up you started going to school, right? You started going to EPCC for
so I ended up graduating at East Lake High School, and then right around my graduation I had just finished my competition, so it was like shifting gears from like finishing what I was working towards for 3 years and then like finishing my high school, which was 4 years. So it was like an end to an era, literally. Like, all right, like I'm closing that chapter, and like, what am I opening up next? That's how I felt, at least. Like, all right, I'm graduating, and like all of my headspace was competing, not what I'm gonna do after I graduate. And like, it was kind of scary when it just like came, and it's like, oh shit, I'm walking the stage, and like everybody's like, oh, I'm going to the Navy, or I'm going to the Army, I'm going to UTSA, and like family and everything's like, well, what are you doing? It's like, I don't know, like, I'm glad I'm here. Like this was what everything that you guys had like told me, you know, like just graduate. That I didn't really have like a set plan. And I think that's like where shit started, because I mean, I enrolled at EPCC, or actually backtrack that. After graduation, I was just like at that point mentally where I just didn't want to think about it. Like I didn't want to think about what I wanted to do or how I was going to get there, or pretty much the question that I always like was scared to answer was like, what do you want to do for the rest of your life? And like, I don't know if I want to do one thing for the rest of my life. Like, so I was like, you know what? Like, I'm not going to answer that question. Like, just take me to the Air Force recruiter. They'll test me and they'll answer it for me. Like, they'll give me a job that I'm suitable for, and hopefully it works out, and I do my time and I get my benefits, and that is what it is. And it was supposed to be 4 years, and then they got my ass. They were like, all right, well, we'll give you $12,000 bonus if you do 6 years. And shit, like at that time, bro, I just got out of high school. I was like, damn, 12 bands, like I do a lot with 12,000. And like for 2 years though, I'm like, bro, $6,000 a year to like really like be locked in, you know. And so I was like, you know what, fuck it, signed it. I ended up saying bye to my family and everything, like rooms packed pretty much. I'm like at the hotel getting ready to get shipped off to basic training, and then my recruiter calls me, and she was just like, can you come to my office? I'm like, all right. Like, I thought they were gonna give me like a wristband to get on the airplane or something, like my ticket. And yeah, she like calls me into the office, and all of a sudden I walk in and her boss is there. And I was like, oh, well, I've never met this guy before, but like it looks like he means business. So like I walk in straight, I'm just like, all right, well, what's up? And he just starts like ripping me one, bro. Like if I was already in the military. I was like, dude, like I haven't even pulled up yet. Yeah, he starts ripping me one, bro, and just like, why don't you have the right paperwork? Like, pretty much I got my wisdom tooth taken out because it was bothering me. But I mean, when you're at a dentist, like, and the dentist is telling you like, yo, I gotta take your wisdom tooth out, like the last thing I'm thinking about is like, I'm gonna tell him no. Like, oh, like, let me call my recruiter. And like, it was just something I didn't put too much thought into. So yeah, I was like, I don't know, like I didn't know I needed it. And so pretty much what it came down to was I got disqualified for 6 months, and then if I were to go back, my job wouldn't be reserved. I would like figure out what my job is after basic training. I just didn't want to do that, so I was like, fuck. Like, and
you were leaving like pretty like the
like
next
that day. Yeah, like literally like bags packed by mom. Like everything was done, ready to go, bro. Like 6 years of hopefully he's good and like just does something with his life. So like that was the plan. Like, all right, like that was the only option that I fucking knew. just because my mom and dad were always like, all right, you either go to school or you go to the military. Like there was like, I didn't know life outside of like go to school or go to the military. And then so it was almost like I was naive to the fucking real world, but I hadn't hit that yet. And then I'm like driving home and just like call my mom, and she's like, what the heck, like shouldn't you already be like on the flight? And I'm like, no, like they pretty much like kicked me out. And like I was just devastated, bro. Like, well, what do I do now? Like I don't want to be a bum that just like chilling off my mom, and just like I don't know, it was just me rethinking a lot of shit. And so yeah, I like pretty much came home and just like, okay, well, school's starting, like I might as well like keep myself occupied and do something.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I did that for my first semester. I didn't do the best. I mean, I got by. I think I failed like one class, but me pulling up was always the issue. Like I couldn't get myself to go to school. So then after that, I had like started separating my time between working at the gym, going to school, and then I had recently gotten introduced to like selling solar panels. So then I like started making that transition, and then I just really fell in love with sales. So I love like talking to people and just getting them to believe in what I'm selling. So then I pretty much stopped going to school and like didn't tell anybody, and just was selling solar panels like all day, every day. Like I think the company that I was at, you had to knock and schedule a minimum of like 3 appointments a day, and you would get paid based off how many appointments you schedule and how many of them actually answer the door and like talk to them. So like in my head, like I'm like, okay, well I gotta get 3 a day if I start at.
So they don't even have to buy the solar panels, just as long as you.
Yeah. So that was I got introduced to that, and
Damn.
literally how you're reacting, bro. I was like, this is a fire gig, bro. Like
I might go apply right now, dog.
So yeah, and it had just like, that company had not just started, but it was like in El Paso, like barely kind of like getting it going. And yeah, I had gotten introduced to that, and I was like, what the heck, like this is legit. Like I can make pretty good money off of this. And yeah, the way that they like not got me, but the way that they won me over was like, you don't even have to sell the solar panels, just get these homeowners to open the door for a sales rep to then try to close them. So I was like, okay, well, what's the payout or whatever? Like for every appointment that you schedule that they open the door and talk to them for 5 minutes, you'll get $100. So I was like, okay, well, 3 a day, that's $300 a day if they open the door. If I do that for a month, I'm like, like in my head, I'm like, damn, like I'll pay off. Like I was about to sign 2 years for $12,000. Like I'll pay this off in a couple months. And so yeah, I went from spending all day and just like from 8 to 7 nonstop, just knocking at thousands of houses to try to get 3 to 4 appointments scheduled, to like changing my entire pitch and like what I'm saying, and getting 10 to 15 appointments scheduled in half the time that I was doing. So I was like, okay, well, I'm on to something. Like I can talk to people. So yeah, that was like the real game changer, was just seeing like, okay, well, like I'm here and you guys needed some info on the solar panels, and like I can get you in contact with somebody that can like sit down with you and tell you exactly how much you'd be looking at. Like and from there they do that. And yeah, I think my first check, and it really wasn't me like being fully like 24/7 on it. Like I was still trying to handle doing the gym and like still going to school and things of that sort. But I think like my first check, I had like 27 appointments for like 2 weeks. So like my like main guy that was like my manager was pretty much, oh shit, like, well, like that was $2,700 like in 2 weeks, bro. That I was like, oh, like I'm about to go ball out, or like it was the most amount of money that I had seen deposited into my account at that age for one pay stub. Like I had been a server at Olive Garden and things of that sort, and like it's decent money, but it's not $2,500 a month, like and consistent, you know. Like like a lot of people think like the sales is tough because you're commission based and like that, but it's like if you put the work in, it's very rewarding, especially when you're good at it. So that's really when I was like hooked, because I was going to school and I'm like, well, if the amount I'm spending 5 hours a day at school and then still trying to squeeze in my appointments afterwards, like how many more appointments can I get in those 5 hours for 5 days a week? Like, and in my head I'm like, I can double, like I could be bringing in $4,200 every 2 weeks and close to $8 to $9 grand a month, like, and like I don't need school, you know, like in my head I'm like, dude, what am I doing? Like, I like went full throttle on in, and literally like couple months after it was going good, I was like very happy with where I was at, and then COVID hit, like boom. And it was like I just remember like going door to door and like kind of thinking that nothing had changed, and it was like 10 doors back to back that they all had the little Ring camera, and they were just like, no, like we don't want to talk to anybody. We're not opening the door for anybody. And it was just like, damn, like that's when it hit me, like there's gonna be a big switch, like what I'm doing to make money I can't do anymore. That I was like, fuck, like all right, well, I went to the military, I tried to go to the military, that didn't work. I tried to go to school and I said fuck that and dropped out. And then now what I'm doing, like COVID hit and I can't do that. So I was literally like, all right, well, we're back to square one again, like back to the drawing board, like what.
And when you're back at square one, like, are you down at all, or is it like...
I think I was very down, bro. I was just like... Or maybe not down, confused, I think is the word. Just because it's like, what do you want me to do? Like, I always felt like there was two options, school or military. And then I tried to like venture out and like do something that was like none of my family has really done. And it still didn't work. So I was like, well, what the fuck? Like, what is my route? What is my play to make that I just didn't have the answer to it? And I think like with COVID, it just gave me a lot of time to just like think and like be by myself, and like everybody was just locked up at the house and too much free time. And I was like, you know what, like I don't want to just like put this time to waste. Like I'm already here, like I might as well try to make some money while being here. And
I think that's what COVID did for a good amount of people, is because especially now that we're back to regular life, right? We really don't have time to just like, I mean, you have time to think and stuff, but not nearly as much.
We're back to fast pace.
It's just like you really can't
day to day
sit back and like really evaluate your life and see like, okay, where am I at, what am I doing, and where am I going? And I feel like,
why do you want to do what you do? So like answering those type of questions takes time. And I think, like a lot of people just, including myself at that time, just didn't set the time aside to truly answer that 110% honest to themselves. That COVID like made me at that time like just want to dig deeper within myself and just like, all right, these routes didn't work, but like what makes me happy? Like what can I like draw my attention to? And from there, that's when it really took a drastic detour, and just the entrepreneurship started and the business like originated. And that was kind of like the biggest stepping stone that I needed in my life to like understand what direction I wanted to go to.
So from that point, you really start getting into like cleaning shoes. That's like how Eternal, at least from your side of the story. I mean, Hugo has kind of another side. But you and Tristan kind of started off with the shoe cleanings and the restorations and stuff. Like when you think back towards that time, like you're cleaning your first shoe, could you have ever imagined that you'd be in the position you are right now, like with Eternal and like what it's evolved into? And
I think the overall vision was always like, I mean, that was like my end goal, was especially when I had first started, like of course like with my first pair that I did for myself, I really wasn't thinking of things as like a business perspective. It was just kind of keeping me occupied in a downtime that I was experiencing, and it was just something that kind of piqued my interest. I had always watched videos on people cleaning the world's dirtiest shoe, or like bringing back a shoe from 1990 something, and like the soles are crumbled, and it was just like, all right, like seeing how one person's trash could then be like completely returned and just like resold to somebody that can value that. Like I think that was something that was like mind-blowing to me, that I just wanted to start venturing into. But yeah, I think once I got a few orders in, and I really started talking to some mutual friends of mine, including like Richard and everybody like that, I was just like, oh, okay, well, maybe you should kind of make your own identity for exactly what you're doing. And that's kind of when the gears started working. Was just like, okay, well, maybe if they see the potential of this actually like continuing, then I might be onto something. And then I was like, you know what, like I'm just gonna make it a separate account and just kind of see what we can do with it. And I never really expected it to hit as well as it did locally, with like everybody that's shown support and just like continue scheduling and things like that. So I think it was just something that I truly didn't know that the city or the region needed. Like,
yeah, because bro, you guys are very, I mean, very well known now in like El Paso, and even, I mean, all over, like really you have business all over the world and like in the United States, but like you're very well known, you know.
I think thankfully, like what me and my brother originally started with, like at ground zero, was like, okay, well, what direction do we want this business to go? Because at that point it was starting to become a business, that I wanted to make things a little bit more professional. That I was like, okay, well, if somebody's giving me their shoes, I want them to know the expectation of what's going to happen, what exactly they're going to be picking up. Just because there are, especially in the beginning, I really wasn't good at my communication skills and just letting people know from the jump, this is what I'm expecting out of you, and like this is what you should be expecting out of me. And I think that was like a big learning experience. But yeah, like trying to move in that direction of being more professional, we had to figure out exactly what we wanted to do differently and how we wanted to portray ourselves to everybody that's coming across our page. And what I told him, and what we just kind of came to the conclusion with, is like, we always just want our work to speak for itself. Like if you were to give a before and after picture, like there's going to be an easy way of knowing which one was before and which one was after. So I think that was something that I always like held close, was like, okay, well, is the quality of work up to par, up to standard? And I think that's what really differentiated us from anybody else that you could schedule with, just because people knew that they were going to be getting top quality service and top quality results. So I think that's when it was like, okay, well, if we're going to start taking this serious, like things got to change a little bit, and like we got to hold ourselves to that higher standard. And I remember like making that transition and just being with Tristan and going from 4 or 5 orders to having like a structure of how we're scheduling, and whoever's scheduling with us, like we're going to send them this message of, okay, well, give us your name, your info, and like we'll give you a quote, send us pictures, we'll break it down for you on exactly what you're going to be getting. And it jumped like 25 orders in a day to 2 days, and it was like, oh shit. Like,
and this was all out of your house?
Yeah, all like a loft pretty much just like this. Yeah, it was like right outside my mom's room. And I had like 3 to 5 orders that were all from one guy, which was my friend Richard. I mean, like I said, like he's always been,
that man Richard, bro.
He's always been there, bro. Like he's always supported me, and like likewise, like it's always just mutual love and respect that he like saw it early on and was just like, all right, like I'll give you 5 pairs of shoes and like just practice on them, and like hopefully like with my shout out and like with my like good business, like I can get you an extra custy or 2 custies. And that's exactly what happened. Was just like the ball started rolling and it started picking up speed, and like 1 custy turned to 3, and like 3 turned to 6, and they tell their friends and their family, and all of a sudden like somebody drops off 12 pairs of shoes, and it's like, okay, well, we got 25 orders that we got to get done. And from there, that was like,
it's a problem, but it's a good problem to have.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, it was a problem that it was like, all right, how do we find the solution to make sure that everybody's happy in this situation? Because I mean, for one, we're happy that we're having good business and that we're scheduled, but but at the same time we got to come through and make sure that we're still delivering. And yeah, I mean, there was times where me and Tristan just kind of sat there and we're like, fuck, like did we just bite off more than like what we can chew? And it was just a matter of manning up and just like making it happen. And like there's those long nights, there's those like times where you don't sleep, that it's just what it takes. And like if like what I told Tristan is like, this is what we signed up for. Like we want to have everything of the freedom of being an entrepreneur and the freedom of picking and choosing what we want to do, how we want to do it, what time we want to do it. That like there's also those times where it's not the prettiest and it's just like, it was somebody's got to do it. And like you being an owner and being a partner in this, like it's just what needs to be done.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that was definitely a big learning experience, but it was like what needed to happen to take the business from like the loft to like, okay, we're onto something, let us try to figure out where this can go. And I think after that, that's when like the overall idea of having a storefront came into play, just because I was running out of room. And thankfully, like going back to the network, it was just like,
yeah,
I mean, I was always working out at show-offs, and thankfully like Hugo and me crossed paths, and he was the delivery driver and I would cook the meals, and we would
delivery driver for meals.
Yeah, at show-offs. So like any of the people that were ordering meal preps, like we would be cooking them, and at the end of the night Hugo would go and deliver them. That I would just have free time from me being at the gym after working out, that he was just like, oh, like do you want to come with me? Like, all right, like we'll kill some time, like we'll, like you got to go to the west side, like fuck it, like let's go. And that's really where that relationship and bond started, was just like two guys that were working together that liked to work out, and just homies, you know. And he kind of introduced me into like the resale scene and just kind of what Supreme was, and Yeezys and Jordans, that I was naive to all of that, bro. Like I wore Vans and Roshi runs and just like the everyday rack room shoes, buy one get one, that my mom could get, you know. That like being at that situation, was just, he's telling me like, oh, like let me use your card and I'll get you a t-shirt, but it's like $80. I'm like, no, bro, like I'm not spending $80 on a t-shirt. And he was like, but we could sell it at like 300, like, and we'll split it half and half. And I was like, look, like I'll trust you, but we'll see how it goes. And yeah, it went good. And in a couple hours I made $120, and I was like, oh shit, well, like just I kind of thought it was like sketch, that I was like, how is this real? And then after that I was like, you know what, like just let me know whenever there's something like that I can do again. And he was just like, okay. All right. And it was like every day, like hey, like at the mall, like come with me to grab these shoes, or sign up for this raffle, or sign up for this, like there's this shirt or this figure coming out. That I was just like, oh shit, well this is a lot deeper than just one t-shirt. Like there's like real money to be made. And 2019 was probably when he started like opening up to me a little bit more about like what his business was, and like, or maybe when I just really started paying attention to like what his business was.
So it was
like,
still, I mean, reselling and that stuff has been around for a while, but it was still kind of early on, and it's not what it is now, you know. Yeah,
it was definitely still early on. Hugo was one of the like very like beginning stages of
pioneers
what resale was. I mean, there was still like a storefront or two that were already open and things of that sort, but like Hugo had been in it for years. Like he would run raffles, and just like he had a pretty good following and network of like people that knew of his business and the value that he provided. So once I started paying attention to that and really like getting my eyes open to like the bigger picture of what he had in front of him, it was like mind-blowing, bro. Because I'm like, well, like I walked into his room, and the one t-shirt that I flipped for $300 that we split 120, like he had like 30. And I was like, well, like that's like 200. Like in my head I'm like, well, bro, like this is $1,000 profit, like if you just sell all these tees.
I noticed like are you pretty numbers oriented? I feel like you kind of like you do that a lot,
bro. I'm very like, it's probably something I could like chill on a little bit, but no, I just love numbers, bro. I love like multiplying it and just like seeing it work for me. Like I think that's like something I learned this past year or the past 2 years that I've been open with the storefront, just because like everything that I had originally worked for and like stacked up and saved was thrown like right back into the business, that it was like I'm starting from ground zero again. That like I didn't have like an inventory. A pair of shoes cost anywhere from $100 to $1,000 depending on what pair it is. That it was like, okay, well, I want to have a storefront, but at the same time, like, how do I get inventory? Like how, like, in order for me to get 10 pairs, I gotta have $1,500 to $2,000, and like 10 pairs in a storefront looks like nothing. Like you walk in and a store has 10 pairs, it's like, oh well, they don't got shit. Like that was just like something that I needed to answer and like figure out. And at that point I knew numbers, but I only knew numbers from a scheduling perspective of like, I can get 30 orders and each order be a $40 order, then okay, like this is how much I'm bringing in. But compared to like a flipping aspect of like, okay, well, I can invest $300 and like almost double my money and not have to do any labor or anything. I just find a buyer that wants the item that I have and still make money off of it. That I was like, oh shit, well, I could do both if I have enough funds and capital to be buying inventory at a lower cost than what I can sell it at. Then whenever it sells, I make my profit and my money back, and I could still be scheduling and doing my cleanings and pay the bills. That I was like, okay, well, that was something that I like struggled with, just because I've never been one to like ask for anything. That like I was gonna go to my mom and be like, hey, like I started the business and like we're looking at a storefront and like, can I borrow or have? I think at that point I would have probably asked for like $1,000, $2,000, but like I just didn't want to owe anybody anything or have anybody ever throw it in my face of like, I helped you start this. That I was just like, no, like I want to do it for myself, and I know that we have the potential to make it a possibility. That it was a sacrifice that I had to make, but like I had bought my car and it was pretty much like 2 to 3 years paid off. Like I loved this car. Like it was a Focus ST. I had gotten at a really good deal, and I was just like, all right, well, I only owe $12,000 on it. Like I could sell it right now at $18,000, $19,000, and be up $5,000 or $6,000, and use that to buy inventory and just not have a car for a couple months and shit. And I just like very impulsively fucking sold my car.
That's what they say too, that you're pretty impulsive, right?
Yeah, bro. So I don't know. The idea came to my head, and I was just like, look, I don't have capital, and I don't want to ask anybody for money. So what do I have that can give me some money in my pocket? And I was like, well, I have a car I've never had a late payment on. Like, I love this thing, but at the same time, like, the car market was up, and like I only owed $12,000, so I can clear my debt, make $5,000 that I can throw into inventory, and hopefully make $10,000 out of that, and then make with the $10,000 make 15, and just keep the ball rolling. That it was just something that I had to like trust that it was gonna work. But that's what made me a numbers guy. It was just like, okay, well, I remember selling it at the end of the year, right before my mom left to Germany. I sold it like 2 weeks before she moved, and your mom throughout all this, is she just looking at you like, dude, I don't know how she doesn't like, I don't know how she puts up with me, bro. It's just, she's just very supportive, and I think that she just trusts my judgment. That like, thankfully, like, knock on wood, but like most of my financial decisions have never backfired on me in a negative way. That like whatever car that I buy, or pretty much I like to think of it like this, like anything that I buy is not gonna, if I were to get rid of it, it's not going to be a lesser value than what I originally bought it at. That my mom's not really, or wasn't really brought up like that, like financial literacy and things of that sort. Like it's something that she kind of struggled with, and just kind of opened up to me that she's like struggles with it and wants to learn more about it. But I think it's something that I have like a deep passion about, that it's like I want to put my mom on, and like I want to like show her the opportunities that there are in like different business ventures. But sometimes she gets intimidated by like what I'm telling her or what I'm like bringing up, that I don't want to like overfill her headspace
Yeah.
and stuff. That I think for the most part, she just kind of lets me experience what I want to experience and just kind of root for me while I do it.
Yeah.
Did she think I was crazy? Fuck yeah. I remember being in the bank and I needed her to sign off to like get my payment and everything, and she was like, you realize that you're not gonna have a car? And I was like, well, I'm gonna have $5,000 in cash, like. And she was just like, well, you better not be stupid with it. If you lose those $5,000, like, I'm not gonna help you get another car. And like my mom had some like trouble with like pulling or signing like a co-sign for me and things like that. So that she was like, you're really like on your own. But my original plan was like, okay, I'm gonna sell my car, profits 5,000, and then go to a dealership and finance another car that's cheaper, have a lower car payment, and still have $5,000 that I can use.
Yeah.
And in my head, that's how it was like, oh, this is gonna be perfect. Like, I'll sell this, make 5,000, jump into a car that's lesser value, still get me to and from, and have a lower car payment and be good, and I'll have a car and cash. And then that was when like real life hit, and it was like, you need credit, you need pay stubs, you need credit history. And I was like, bro, I don't have any of those. Like, just trust me. Like, I make this much, bro. Trust and me, bro.
Trust me.
So it was like, okay, well, I sold my car, I had $5,000 cash, and I had no car. That I was like, okay, well, I can't go finance anything, and and my mom couldn't co-sign for me. That I was like, fuck it, I just gotta thug it out and like not drive. Car. Yeah, like we're carpooling, you know.
Yeah.
And then
in El Paso, not having a car is like fucking like it's almost impossible to be able to like do anything really.
Yeah, it was
especially living in East Lake, you know.
Yeah, trying to find a ride for somebody out there, it's tough. But
yeah, what do you do with this?
Yeah, so I end up flipping it. I get the cash, and I remember like having a little notebook. And I still have it just to look back on and stuff. But it was like pretty much the start of the year, like January, right when my mom left. Like I wrote down like the exact number that I had in my bank account, my credit limit, which I think was like $1,000, and then pretty much I had started like my inventory sheet. So like out of that $3,000 or $4,000, like every item that I was buying, I was writing that off, and then just like seeing how much I had to work with and trying to buy the most profitable items with the amount that I had. And then like on a separate like page, I wrote pretty much like what my goal was for the end of the year, which was like how much value and inventory do I want to have at the end of the year, how much credit limit do I want to have at the end of the year, and how much my total bank account would have at the end of the year. Yeah, like that's what started the process. And then from there, it like went from the little notebook to having a little bit more items that I moved it to like an Excel sheet. And then yeah, just continuing to grow that. And I really didn't look at like the overall number until like the end of the year, just because I didn't really want to like push myself to meet like a standard of number. Like I just really wanted to like focus on buying items that the storefront needed. So yeah, thankfully it just like I saw the numbers multiplying, and I saw kind of how using money to make more money works, and I just got addicted to it.
Yeah.
And then that's kind of when I made that like transition to just solely focus on buying and selling like pre-owned and like new items and stuff.
Yeah. When did Hugo, because he had an inventory like already as well, when did he come to you with this idea, or like did you guys collaborate on the idea, or like how did this so play out?
I think I had started getting a little bit more clientele and a little bit more I guess you could say like a higher end type of clientele. Like I was getting a lot of like bar owners, a little bit of like influencers, and just I mean the business was starting to pick up, and people were starting to recognize that it was like, oh shit, like this is more than just like some kids in the loft.
Yeah.
Like, and then I think that's when Hugo kind of like picked up on it, and he was already running out of space in his backyard. So yeah, one of the times after the gym, we were just kind of talking, doing a delivery, and he was just like, well, why don't we just like pretty much asked me like, how's it going? And I was like, it's good, but like I'm running out of space. Like my mom walks out the room, and she's just like, what? Like it's a mess. Like it's like not my house anymore, you know? And I was just like it sucks like having people pick up, drop off, and know where you live. And so he was like, yeah, like my mom's feeling the same way. Like I got shoes and clothes galore, like all in my room. And he was like, well, what if we were to just like get our own space and like split it? He was like, you have like a decent amount of clientele that like you'll be scheduled and I'll be able to sell my stuff. And then that's kind of when it was like, oh shit, like I've heard of people that do this. Like I mean, I had went to Urban Necessities years back. Like my dad used to live in Vegas, and it was something that I had been introduced to early on, that it was like, I knew about the sneakers, I knew about the culture and like a resale culture, and just like shoes can be worth 2,000, 10,000, like just crazy absurd numbers that I really wasn't introduced to here in El Paso. That I saw that out there, and I knew that it was possible. Really? Yeah, like I knew it was possible, but I never imagined that like owning it would be like me. Yeah, like when I walked into Urban Necessities, like I remember being that kid that was like 13, 14 years old, and like I looked at the shoe and it was like $800, and like I remember looking at one shoe and then like looking at the wall and there's just like 1,000 shoes, and I'm like, well, this one is $1,000. Like, how the fuck does somebody or one person own all this? It just didn't make sense to me on how somebody could own and operate something of that scale. Yeah. That like now being in a different type of position 2-3 years down the road, it's just like you just put the time in. Like you don't really realize that you're at that scale that you're at until like things like this, when you reminisce. And it's like, I remember taking orders for $10-15 or not even getting paid, and then just like to where we're at now, like thankfully like being blessed with like people coming in and scheduling on a day-to-day basis, or people coming in and ordering the newest pair of shoes with us, or just stopping by the shop to see what we have new, just because we do get new items on a day-to-day basis. So yeah, I think seeing that and like the growth of where the business has gotten, thankfully just off of like one crazy conversation, was just like wild. Because I mean, me or Hugo, none of us really grew up in a situation where it was like our parents had and operated a business and like were from an entrepreneur background or anything like that. It was just two kids that were fucking knew that this had decent profit margins and didn't want to clock in somewhere. That it was like, maybe we can figure this out and kind of see where it takes us. But yeah, I think one thing that I definitely cherish is just like the bond that we've created amongst all of our team. Just because, yeah, doing it by yourself is definitely very hard, and especially like in this business, it's very fast paced. So the more hands on deck that are 100% about where the vision wants to go, I think it just makes things 10 times easier.
Yeah. At the end of the day, I think if you want to build anything, I think it takes like a team, a good people that you're surrounded by, and really just a lot of different minds like collaborating, you know? Yeah,
for sure. I think just with anything too, especially business related, at some point you realize as running something or having like all the operations just on you, that like, I mean, running a business is all aspects. Like, you're working with the customer, you're trying to do the marketing, you're trying to do the photography, you're trying to have the customer service to schedule, you're going out and trying to spread the awareness. Like, there's a lot that like goes into trying to run it, that it could just be very overwhelming. But it's at the same time, it's like that reward that you get out of it too. So I just like, you got to cherish the good with the bad for sure. But it's not even bad at all. It's, I mean, you got to always just have like that positive mindset. Like, I think that's what kind of helps, is just knowing that I'm waking up and like it's mine. Like whatever I'm working towards or whatever I'm like doing, I like to know that it's like for me or like for my family, and like it's working for us so far. So yeah, thankfully everything's been pretty good. But yeah, still the what's the word, like the growing pains.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I could imagine, bro, like starting out, whether it's like a business or a podcast, a YouTube channel, or just whatever, anything like you're trying to start up and like investing your time into, at least for me, and I think a lot of people can relate, there's always like that like maybe that fear of the unknown, of like what the possibilities are. Like, how'd you deal with that, like when you're first starting out, like that, like maybe that uncertainty that comes along with starting something, you know?
I don't know. I don't want to say I ever had like feelings of uncertainty, just because I was, like I said, like I'm always so like heavily invested into what I'm working towards that I don't think there was any like plan B. Like,
Yeah.
Like I think that was like I think that was the main thing that like made this what it is, was just like I tried my very, very best to like not have the doubt of like this not working, because like everything else had not worked already. So I was like, dude, like I'm like on my last straw here. Like I need this to like work. That I was like, I enjoy what I do. I'm happy with what I'm doing when every day I wake up. Like I try to just always think that like I'm living a life, you know, and
Yeah.
just like,
And you're blessed in that too, because a lot of people, like their last straw comes, like they don't finally hit that that breakthrough until they're like 30s or 40s. So like, not to say that like you've fully made it, but like you've definitely found what it is that like you can see yourself doing for the definitely
near future.
near future.
I think definitely I like to view it as like a stepping stone, just because I tell all the guys too, like the shop is my pride and joy, and like I want that to like, I mean, our name is eternal, because I never want it to like have an end, you know. I just want it to continue to thrive regardless of what it is. That I'm like, I just love the idea of knowing that there's always that next venture that we can jump into, always together. And like having this as a stepping stone really like brought us closer and like taught us the foundation and like fundamentals of business that a lot of people don't experience, especially if you don't go to school for it. Going back to having a team, I think like being a good boss and a good owner is just like understanding that you only have 24 hours in a day. And like the same way with everybody like trying to do and like be like, oh yeah, I did this by myself and like nobody helped me, and like it's almost a negative thing. Like you shouldn't be doing it by yourself. Like if you're the boss and you want to scale this and really like make it something completely bigger than what you are, you need people on that same vision, on that same path, and like willing to put in that same amount of work to achieve that. And I think that's exactly what we have, is like the same way that I'm passionate about like my business. Like I know that my shop floor manager Ivan is 110% involved and like devoted to this, and like
shout out to Chingy.
Yeah, bro, he's held it down since the jump. And like having somebody like that that's just like in your corner and just is continuing to root for the vision and like root for what we're working towards. Me and Hugo and Tristan being like technically like the shot callers of like what route that this business is going, just because they're happy and like they enjoy coming to the shop every day and like helping us reach those new goals and like those new milestones. So
would you say you hold each other accountable? Definitely
trying to get better at it. It's kind of tough, especially since we're all young. There's not really I feel like in every job situation there's always somebody that's a little bit more intimidating or a little bit more that like stern with you, that's gonna be like, hey motherfucker, like you're not doing the very best, like it's time to get on the right path. That I think with us it's like we have that bond with each other and that friendship, and like it can get mixed up of like having too much fun and then like knowing when business is business and like playtime is over and like we really got to get shit handled. But I think for the most part we've done pretty well about holding ourselves accountable and meeting deadlines and having events that have good turnouts and things of that sort. But it's just like it can be hard, especially when you never want to make it personal, you know? Like
especially if you guys are like family, basically.
Like I mean, at the end of the day we're all talking to each other and it's just like, oh, what are we doing? You know, but like there is times where it's like you got to have those serious conversations, and like there's times when I need to get checked, and there's times when I got to sit Tristan, Hugo, or somebody down, and it's just like, hey, like we're not that I'm upset at you, or not that we're like there's no way to fix this, but at the same time like we got to continue to do a little bit better and just like strive to be the best that we can. And I just think that having a team that you can, not in a sense check somebody, but correct somebody, and just kind of be like, hey, like you did this, and I think you could do this better, and it helps with the overall growth and like stopping the mistakes from happening again in the near future. Because there's times where, I mean, I don't hold myself the very like most composed, especially when like things frustrate me, or like little things like that I don't handle the situations as best as I could, and I know that. But it's like having somebody like Ivan like pull me to the side and be like, yo, bro, like I love you, but the way that you handled that, like you could like let's backtrack and like think of a different way that you could have approached that situation, or a different tone of voice that you could have used, or a different vocabulary that you could have picked. And like having somebody that's a few years older than me and just kind of like not wanting me to go down a route that like I can't fix, or just communication skills that he knows I could be better at, especially with the role that I have in the business, that I need that, you know. Like like I said, I don't know everything, and like him being a manager at Cane's and just having that manager role is just like taught him a lot about communicating with people, that I needed to get checked, and I needed to get that understanding of like having empathy with people. And without that, like I would have never, like it would have took me, not that I would have never figured it out, but it would have took me a lot longer to really understand that like, hey, I don't do this the very best that I could, and there's somebody that is trying to teach me how to do better. So
I feel like that's so big, bro. Like you said, just having the fact that you guys have this team, and that you guys, I think you balance each other out very well, you know. And maybe like accountability is one thing, but it's also being able to lean on each other. Like I'm sure you don't go in every day like the most motivated you ever can, so like I'm sure when days like you're kind of not the most motivated, I'm sure there's someone in there who's like, come on, like let's get this shit done. Like we like it's just a balancing act, you know. I think it's definitely something that we've been getting better at, and just trying to work more with each other to keep ourselves motivated. But I think it's really just the consistency, like making sure that things are caught up, and just like everybody's headspace is leveled going into the new week, and just payments and everything is up to date, that there's really nothing to be stressed about other than what is to be thrown at us. That's the point that I kind of want to just like get to, and then figure out the best way to just keep it as level-headed as possible with us. But how do you handle the stress of because I mean, being an entrepreneur, like it's very glorious in a lot of aspects, right? Especially being a successful one, but it's a lot of fucking work, dude. So like I'm sure things get very stressful in like just your day to day. And so what is something that you've came across, or something that you just try to practice that really helps you in those times?
Well, for one, just learning to separate work from personal life. Like I think that was one thing that I really had to learn this past year, just because I was so overly like, or not even overly, but I was just so locked in that it was everything that I was doing, you know. And like at that point, that's when that stress kind of weighs your shoulders down way too much, and you never feel like your head's out of water. And like it's not as great of the business that it was doing, it was like I really wasn't like happy. Like I was like the business is good, and we're like pushing weight, and we're moving pairs, and I'm buying, I'm selling, and everything like that. And it's like, okay, well, like that makes me happy, but like I'm like I don't even have time to go to the gym anymore. Like I don't even like see my dog, or
you know, just like, as an individual, like as a human, like totally.
So it's like it felt to the point like I was like not even living at my house. Like I was going home and like knock out and wake up and back to the shop. Like I really wasn't like having gratitude for everything that I did have. Like I've like now I like to go home and like sit and just like I have a house. Like a lot of people don't have a house. I have food in my fridge, and just like I can sit here and make a coffee and just watch TV, and like not have to be on my phone worrying about like a shoe or a pair that's coming out. And like not feeling bad about having my downtime was one thing that I just had to like accept.
Because especially in your line of work, you can literally work
24/7. Yeah, like my phone here, like it's like, I mean, if I'm not getting like a notification off of somebody like, hey, can you get this pair for me, or like, hey, do you have this size, or it's like I have like an eBay notification or an OfferUp notification, a Facebook Marketplace, or it's just like multiple platforms that it's like, all right, like if I don't put this down or to the side, like I will literally be clocked in 24/7 just trying to find something to work on. That I was like, okay, I need to, like, it was just taking a lot of a toll on like my mental and just like my relationships with people. Like regardless, like I just felt like I never had time, or I never made the time. When people would go out of their way to like invite me places or invite me to do something, and it's like, oh, I would, but like I gotta do this and this. Like then you start realizing that people are gonna stop inviting you to do shit. Like, and the same way that I like to go out of my way, and like if I'm inviting somebody, then it's like, hey, like I'm gonna go out of my way to invite them. Like I would at least want them to like show some type of like
for sure
effort, you know. And like I just felt like I was just not truly happy with how I was treating my outside world other than business. That I just really like had to make a switch and just like understand that there's a life outside of like the numbers and outside of being an entrepreneur, and just having that gratitude to like step away from it and like really get my schedule down to where it's like, okay, I have hours and like set work hours now. And I go home at a certain time, and like sometimes people will text me and it's like my day off, like I only have one day off. So like and it's because like we pretty much decided like we needed a day off. The one that brought it up was Ivan, and he's just like, dude, like you guys work, like you guys need a day to just like not do shit, like not talk about shoes, not like go hang out with your nephew, like go hang out with your cousin, go to the farmer's market, like just do something that you don't do, and like go on a hike. And it was just like, that was like an eye-opener, because there's real life out here that's happening. And like we often let that like get passed by due to little shit like that. But yeah, I was just like, okay, I have my day off on Mondays now, and I tend to just like keep it to myself and just catch up at the house, do laundry, and relax. But there's also times where it's like on Monday, like people like, or customers like, hey, like can you, like I really want this pair, like can you please come, and like I'll take them for sure. And it's like fuck, like I'm still tempted, you know. I'm still like, oh shit, like the money's calling, like I can make a quick play and I can just open up real quick. But I know if I go open up, I'm not gonna leave. Like I know I'm not gonna like, I'm gonna make that first flip, and then it's like, okay, well, what else can I sell while I'm here? What else can I do? And it's just like, I had a day off for a reason. Like I'm not gonna get that next day off for another week. That it was just something that I had to like just recently kind of start doing. It was just like, look, like I'm off, and like I'm sorry, you know, like I like the website's open 24/7. Like we still have options, you know, like even though I'm not at the store, like the website's open 24/7. Everything that we have in store is on the website to the pretty much to the T. So it's like, if you want to browse your size and I don't have the storefront open, like you can still do the whole shopping experience from your phone, and then just let me know like what pair you're interested in, and we can kind of talk from there. But it's just like,
it's really just setting those boundaries.
And at first I really wasn't. It was just work that I want to like experience, having time to go to the movies or time to fucking go out to eat.
I mean, you're a human that needs, like, you have needs that need to be met, whether it's like emotionally or I mean shit, spiritually. And like,
you're going to church, bro. Like that was one thing that my grandma and my mom just so not hard on me about, but just constantly remind me about. Is just like being grateful and just being open-hearted to like, this wasn't my doing. Like I didn't, like none of this just like fell on my lap because of my well-doing. Like this shit was planned out for me, and like thanks to the man above, like he took care of me and my family, and like put us in the right position and right predicament to make something happen that like I can't forget that, you know. I can't like let the everyday life and everyday tasks kind of come in the way of like truly giving thanks to like why I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like that's one thing that I've been trying to do better at too, is just, I mean, getting myself to, if I'm not going to church, at least clocking into a sermon online and just getting some type of like, getting myself some type of grounded for the week, that it's like, okay, I can start this back up and like be in the right headspace and like the real reason of what I'm doing. Like I'm not doing it for the amount of money in my pocket. Like I'm trying to, like, the reason for all of this is just to create generational wealth. Like I don't ever want my family to have to like wonder like how shit's gonna be met. Like I want to be like, I would want my kids to be trust fund babies. Like that's you know, like I would want my grandkids to like still be eating off the plate that I served. And like, I mean, will we get there? Like who knows? But like that's the overall plan, you know. And I just like want my family taken care of, and like that's, if I can just continue to do what I do on a day-to-day basis and like hopefully get one step closer to that, then I mean somehow we're on the right path. So.
Yeah. So I think a big something that I think is like a big part of your life and a big reason like why you've like found success as well is, I mean, aside from like you as a person and like your abilities and just the hard work you put in, you also, like we mentioned before, like you have a good circle around you, right? Yeah. Of other hardworking and really just good people that have the best interests of you at heart, and also like just are just as ambitious and just as goal oriented and stuff. For someone who's not in that position, for maybe someone who feels like either they're lonely or like they really have no one to go to, or maybe are surrounded by people that maybe they feel like aren't the best for them. What would you, I guess, start someone out that's in that position? What would you maybe say to them, or just advice that you would give them to kind of start moving in the right direction with that, whether it's like trying to get better people around you or maybe leaving the current situation of the people you're already surrounded by, you know?
Yeah, I think the main thing really is just not seeking anybody's validation. Like a lot of people, when I started this out, just saw it as me cleaning dirty pairs of shoes, and like little did they see like the end goal or the route that it would have taken me and my family, that like it was so much more than what they had originally thought it was supposed to be, that like if I would have took their validation and their opinion into consideration at that early age, I don't think it would be what it is right now. And like I think it was just like a big lesson that I learned to like hold close to me, is like you're gonna do what makes you happy. And I think in order to make that decision, you truly have to figure out what you're passionate about and like what puts a smile on your face and gets you up out of bed. And like my brother struggled with it too. It was just like not having that sense of direction of like, why am I getting out of bed? Like to go do what?
Or even just like why am I here type thing.
Yeah, like it's just like a constant question of like, what value do I bring? Like, and sometimes you don't have that answer, but I mean, you gotta take the time to really like evaluate yourself, and then at that point when you figure it out, like try to make it a little bit easier on yourself. Like I said, you're not gonna know everything, but there is somebody that's gonna know a little bit more than you. And like with me, for a perfect example, like I didn't know anything about the shoes and like what paint I needed to use or what type of paint remover I need to use for the sole to not fuck up. Like there's just so much information that was unknown, that if I would have just been too scared to reach out and ask somebody, I would have probably postponed my growth by months, or like maybe lost customers because I'm using the wrong things, or not have people so satisfied with the results because I just didn't do the due diligence of knowing that I'm providing the right value. Like, and like for me, I reached out and I graduated from the shoe surgeon school, and like thanks to my teacher, like Dominic Ciambro, and like he's a beast. Like he knows the ins and outs of the shoes. Like he understands that people start from nothing. Like
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna start from scratch. You're gonna start from page 1 with no words on it. Like, and like the same way that I knew nothing, like at one point he knew nothing, and like he had to reach out to find his mentor and like somebody to put him on to, this is the better route. And like it saved me the time just getting out of my comfort zone, and like the chances of him answering were slim to none. He's, I mean, very well known, working with celebrities. Like, I mean, early on was doing shoes for Justin Bieber. Like dude does shoes for everybody that's pretty much a celebrity now. That I was like, you know what, like he's never gonna like see this shit. Like,
Mm-hmm.
but fuck it, I took the time to write it out, and I had a serious question that I wanted an answer to. That like all of a sudden, like a few hours later, like he hits me back with like step 1, step 2, step 3, and like this is what you're gonna do. And like most people gatekeep it, and like, but that's what it takes. It's just okay, like we're little nuggets of information that you can somehow just piece together and like try to get.
And what did you
further.
lose from that? Like you didn't lose anything from just
getting out of your comfort zone.
Yeah,
That's really all it is like, and that goes with a lot of shit that I've did with the business, bro, especially starting out in the beginning. Like, I mean, a perfect example too was, I mean, I was starting it out. I really didn't have too much of like a platform yet. I knew that I could do it good, and like that the results were there. And thankfully, like at this time, like I didn't really have a relationship with Alex or like Flex Galindo and like Les Do Makeup and things like that. And I was just like, you know what, like I'd always like followed them, and I had seen him post like some dirty ass shoes like he had taken to Mexico, and I was just like he just kind of like put him back in the closet, and I just knew like he probably was never gonna touch him again. I had like reached out, and I'm like, hey bro, like I saw you fucked up your shoes, and like I'll fix them for you for free. Like I just want to show you that like you don't have to just like not use them anymore or throw them away. Yeah, like I didn't really get an answer back. Like he's getting tons of DMs, and like it's probably in the request, and busy guy, you know, he's always doing something. That I was just like randomly at the fountains walking, and I think I was getting like a gift for somebody, or something for my mom or something of that sort.
Mm-hmm.
And I see him at Kona Grill, and he was just like outside, like as I was walking, like he was at the edge, and I was just like nervous as fuck, because I don't want to be like that fucking guy, like, hey bro, like stop eating, like let me, like. But at the same time, I was just like, I'm already here, like I'm already face to face, and like when am I gonna get this chance again? Like I already DM'd him, and like it didn't work out. That like fuck it, like this is like for the business, like if I do this, like oh shit, like maybe people will start taking me a little bit more serious, like maybe people will like start trusting me a little bit more. And like I just went up and talked to him, like, hey bro, like, I saw you kind of messed up your shoes, and like I've been following you for a little while, and this is what I do, this is my page, like I just started up, and I was just wondering if like you'd be able to help me out, and I'll just clean your shoes for free, and just like that way you don't have to like not use them. And he was like, oh shit, I've actually like someone was like bringing it up to me, and he was like, yeah, like well just meet me tomorrow, and I'll bring you like 5 or 6 pairs. And at that time I was still working at T-Mobile and stuff, and I was just like, oh shit, well like it worked, you know, like I was just like, oh shit, like what the. And I called my brother, and I was like, dude, like well we just got like a 6-pair order, and he was like, fuck yeah, like well what are they? And I was like oh well it's Alex, and he was like, what? And I'm like, yeah, like it just happened. I just randomly was walking, and I saw him at Kona, and just like shot that, and like that was the beginning of something like great. Like me and him have done great business together, and like collaborations with each other with Eternal and Vlexen, and I mean very like good mutual co-workers. Like my business partner Nick was his creative designer, and like worked hand in hand, and it was just crazy how things went full circle off of just like one conversation that like might have never happened if I was just too scared to say hi and just like bring up what I was trying to do. And it was just like sometimes you just can't be scared. Sometimes you gotta. And
the thing is, you were scared, but it's like it's just a matter of like what
you gotta have the courage of like, all right,
exactly.
Like it's. And I think it was like with the door knocking, like knocking the door and somebody that I've never met opens it, and it's like it could either go one of two ways, really good or really bad.
Yeah.
And like I was already in that position with the door knocking. I was like, I'm already here. That like if I bring it up and like he doesn't fuck with it, like okay then
yeah,
I tried. Like, but if I bring it up and he does, and like then,
and if he doesn't, are you ever like, you might remember it, but at the same time, I mean, time's gonna go by and like that's it. It's gonna be in the past, and
life goes on.
Yeah,
you're gonna get another customer. You're going to. It's not the end of the world, and it's not the end of the business. And maybe at that point, if they didn't fuck with it or they didn't like see the value in it, then like reevaluate a little bit and ask yourself like, am I bringing that to the table, or like what didn't they see that I am trying to do, you know, and just try to continue to refine and bring the best packages possible, and just meet the expectations. I think that's really the main thing. And
also, like, hypothetically, if it was a situation where it didn't go the way you expected, rather than be like, you'd maybe upset, but rather than be spiteful about it, like you say, you take a look inward and be like, okay, maybe I need to like up my game a little bit, maybe, because at the end of the day, it's like you can control what you can control, and the only thing you can control is basically the quality of your work and how much time you're putting in, right? And you can't control at the end of, like, for example, doing this podcast, I can control like how consistent I am and how like
how regular you upload,
how regular I do that. But like at the end of the day, I can't really control, once I put it out, how many people are gonna like it or how many people are gonna watch it at the end of the day. So it's just a matter of really just controlling what you control, and you got to live with that.
And everybody's gonna have their opinion at the end of the day, and not to say that anybody's opinion is wrong, or just because it's opposing viewpoints of yours that it's like should be shamed. But it's like, okay, like for that perfect example, like if they saw the business page and it just didn't resonate with them, then like you can always look inward and be like, okay, well, is there something that I'm slacking on? Is there something that I could be doing better? But like if you answer all those questions, and it's like okay, I've been taking regular pictures, like they're day and night photos, like the page is appealing, like we've been up to date with our posting, we have constant stories. Like, I mean, if I'm answering all of that and it's like I can't really see where I'm lacking or what I can be improving on, then it's like that's just somebody's opinion, and like I can't be upset that they didn't like it or it didn't stick with them. But that's one person out of how many that I can reach. Like, and what I like to tell people too is like when people were asking about the business and like why I chose to go so heavily involved with the business, was I tell them like I've fallen so much like in passion with it because everybody has a pair of shoes. Like regardless if you're even homeless, like most of the time a homeless person has a pair of shoes that they want to upkeep and keep them in good condition, so that way they don't have to buy another one. That I was like, okay, well, that's one person that might have an opposing viewpoint of what I'm doing, but like I have everybody else that I could talk to, that like I don't need to just solely focus on what one person says negative about my business, when I can talk to 20 other people and probably 18 to 19, if not all 20 of them, will probably say something positive about my business. So just changing that mentality of understanding that not everybody is going to fully understand why you're doing what you're doing or why you're doing it the way that you're doing it. But if it makes sense to you and it's working, and then look it, it's somebody's opinion, bro. And like, I mean, there's things that I like that people probably don't like, and at the end of the day, am I gonna change that I like it? Like probably not. It makes me happy, and it's just gonna, if it doesn't bother my life, then so be it. Like,
I think that's something, I mean, for some people it may come natural, is like that ability to kind of shrug shit off, but that can also be a muscle. Like it can be something that you actually
have to practice,
get better at, you know, and over time. Because I mean, I can definitely say that at least first starting out, I definitely, like, if I saw something negative or I didn't get maybe the feedback I wanted, it'd be like,
it tends to stick with you more than the positive shit that people say.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
it's like damn, like I had 19 or 20 positive comments, but like for instance, I make a shoe or whatever, and it's like a colorway that I put together, and I really rock with it, and I think it's fire, and it's like 19 other people think like, oh shit, like this shit's fire, like I need one, like oh yeah, like let's make one, and then like somebody's like, damn, that color scheme fucking sucks. And it's like that was something that I thought the color scheme was sick as fuck, you know, like I thought it was like dope, and then like, but there's always gonna be people with different tastes and different styles, and what clothes do you have in your closet that you would be trying to pair it with versus what I have in my closet that it probably works with. That, I mean, it's just everybody's different, and you just got to accept that and really just be open-minded to other opposing viewpoints, and that's just really what it is. Like, you can't be salty about it. It's like,
there's also power in taking that negative and being motivated by it. Like, it's something definitely that can be a motivating factor. Like, I don't think you should do it from a bad place, like a negative, like a spiteful place in your heart. Like,
let me do it to show you.
Yeah, but at the same time, you could definitely take some of that negative emotion and definitely motivate you in a lot of ways, you know?
Yeah, I think throughout like the whole bodybuilding prep and like getting ready for the show and shit, that's really what like was the motivation. Really, it was just like being the smallest dude and just like like bringing my food to class. Like I mean I was eating 6 meals a day, if not like super consistent, and like being in school in high school, like you only eat at lunch, so it was like, okay, well I gotta fit 2 to 3 extra meals in the same amount of time while I'm at school that I was eating in third period and I was eating in sixth period. That it was like, all right, sometimes I bring my food out and I'm like eating, and then there was like that one person that was like, why are you eating, or like what are you doing? And
yeah, you're
like,
fucking class, bro.
yeah, and it's like, yo, like I'm sorry, but like I gotta eat 5 or 6 times. And it's like, for what? Like, you still look average, like you still look normal, and it's like, you're like if that, like, okay, like that is true, like you're not wrong, but like at that point, if I don't do this, then I will continue to be normal. I will continue to look the same, if not worse. That like, what is bugging you so much of me trying to get myself at a better position to where I feel better, look better, more healthier? That it's like, what was the disconnect? That at the end of the day, it's like you just got to care for yourself, and like you really just, like, if I was passionate about like wanting to compete and wanting to put on size and wanting to look good, feel good, be healthy, like, then I should be doing everything in my power to put myself in that position to excel at it, and rather than taking the fucking negative of like, oh, you still look average, like you're doing this and this, and you still don't lift as much as me, or you're doing this and you're taking this. You want it, like, not from a spiteful way, but it's like, all right, like, I just give me 2 years, give me a year.
I mean, like, you like, a lot of people won't admit it, but you take tabs for sure. Like, you do take tabs. Like,
and it's like, okay, like I remember being there and like the people that are like doing that, and it's like the little comments and things of that sort, and then like 2 years later, it's like, oh, okay, like I won first place, I took first in my division, like I won teens division, and like the goal was complete, and it's like, oh, like congratulations. And it's like, not that I was like, oh, fuck you, bro, like, I mean, I still was like, yo, I appreciate you, like, it's all good, blah blah blah. And it's just like, but you still remember those times a lot more than the times of people like, damn, like you're doing good, you're staying consistent. Like, there's probably multiple times where somebody was like, oh, look, like I'm proud of you, like you're actually sticking to it, or like you're on week 3 and like you're still like eating your meals, or you've been like losing 5 pounds, and but like, you don't really remember that. Like, you remember the shit that it's like the shit that hits deeper, and most of the time it's gonna be the negative stuff that tend to leave a little bit more of a scar with you. But yeah, it's just trying to not do it for anybody else. It's just like, if you have that goal, if you have that end vision, it's just what steps that you need to take and what's the blueprint to get to that destination.
At the end of the day, though, too, like the people that are gonna be making those comments, like at the end of the day, that's really just comes from the insecurity.
It's just a personal thing, bro. They might not be the happiest with themselves, like with the whole workout stuff. Like, they might not think that they look the best or feel the best, and like seeing you take that extra step or initiative of like trying to do better, and then they're still like not prepped out, or
people
still
feel like threatened, kind of threatened by that, you know?
It just, it's a sad thing to like see, because it does demotivate somebody, and it does kind of like stray a lot of people from really achieving what they think that they can like put their mind to and achieve, just because of that self-doubt. Like you're hearing it from other people. Thankfully I really wasn't in a household where I didn't have somebody that was believing in me, but I definitely met a lot of my mutual friends that it's a tough thing, bro. Like it's a tough thing to accept that it's like a lot of people don't have that support behind them, and it's kind of like, if you make it, you make it. If not, like, you're not my problem. And like with me, it was never like that. It was like, okay, well, like, this is what I want to do, and like I hopefully you guys support me 110%, like not financially or anything like that, but just being morally supportive of like, you're doing something and I'm proud of you, and like you're on the right track. Like hearing that is game changing, bro. Like it, and being in the position where I am, where I have employees and like we have a team, and people need that recognition, and not to like kiss their ass, but just to keep them motivated and know that they're acknowledged, and that the work that they're putting in is meaningful and not just overlooked. And yeah, it's a game changer, and it's something so simple that tends to get overlooked, but that's something that can like really stay with you and just motivate you for weeks, if not months at a time, just because of that one little like 5 minutes that you stepped aside and just like, yo, like I appreciate what you do, like you've been killing it, and like like just this wouldn't be where it's at without you, and just continue moving the way that you move, and we'll just continue growing. I think that was like a real big game changer that a lot of people need, that I don't think a lot of people have. I think we definitely need more of that, right? Like, because like you said, there's not many people, like it's unfortunate, but there's definitely not a lot of people that are getting that like reinforcement or that recognition from someone, where it's like, yeah, at the end of the day you want to do something for yourself, but you also like you're human, and like you want people to kind of be proud of you. And like I think, like you said, a lot of people don't have that. So I think really just being able to be that person for someone too, even if like you don't even know them, but like even just random acts of like kindness. Just stepping outside of your own time and your own day, and really just being like, yo bro, I see the work you're doing, like pay it forward a little bit. That's some good shit, even if it's just like super simple. But people need to hear that, so people need to, especially when it's like a situation that's not gonna be like a next day type of thing. Like you're not gonna see the results one day to the next, and like at that point that can be time consuming. Like this vision took 2 to 3 years to put together for the business, and like imagine being 2 to 3 years deep and never getting any type of like, oh shit, like you're on the right path, like you're doing something good. It could be hard to know that you're on the right track, or you're even going down the right. I think that's why a lot of people probably stop, right? They probably stop doing that. Like they probably stop pursuing it, because you don't get that like just that reinforcement and that like just that positive feedback, because you take that with you. It's almost a sense of like getting paid, like like it's not financially or money or anything like that, but it's like in a sense it pays your ego, it gives you that sense of like acknowledgement of like, this isn't for nothing. Like I'm on the right path. Like I may not have made so much money today, but like, hey, like somebody acknowledged that like this is working and it's doing something. So like that's what's gonna motivate me to wake up tomorrow and like make it happen, and hopefully be in a better position than where I am today. And like but I definitely have seen a lot or met a lot of mutuals that it's like eye-opening to see that their families just don't function that way, and like opening your headspace to that, and like accepting that not everybody's raised the same way as you is crazy to think about. Because I would never like I could never imagine my mom just like not being so heavily involved with like what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis, and just knowing of like that me and my brother are taking care of him, like our business is good, like, but to not have like that communication with somebody or that like positive reinforcement is very, very tough. I think we've been talking for a cool like maybe 2 hours, bro. Lost track of time for sure. But I guess
maybe just to wrap it up a little bit, for someone who's in your position who wants to start like their own business, maybe has like a talent that they've like kind of like stumbled upon, and they feel like they can do something with it. They're hearing people say like, oh, like they're just giving them reasons to not do it, or maybe they're coming up with those reasons themselves. What would you say to someone who's in that position?
You just got to commit. I think that's the biggest thing. You can't be 1 foot in, 1 foot out. You can't swim like that. It's just, if you're going to swim, you're going to jump head first and you're just going to start paddling, you know.
'Cause you didn't have a plan B yourself, right? You said it yourself.
I mean, this was my plan D, you know. Like I mean,
yeah.
Plan A, B, and C didn't fucking work for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just like, all right, like this is my like. I actually had a friend tell me this the other day. It was like, if you're put in a position where you're either gonna sink or swim, like you're gonna learn to swim. Like there's no plan B. Like you have to. And
what are you gonna do? Die? You know, like
yeah, like that's just a sense of being uncomfortable, and it's just a sense of like, all right, like I don't have the answer, but I need to learn and I need to figure out the answer. And like you have to fully commit to it if you're passionate about it. And time wise, like it's gonna be time consuming, it's gonna be draining, it's gonna be, well, excuse my language, but it's gonna be a bitch, you know. It's gonna take that work, and like it might not be pretty all the time, but that's what makes the good things beautiful. Like, and like you can't just reap those benefits and not fully put into it. And it's like you reap the seed that you sow, so you should definitely sow that seed as best as possible. And you just have to make it for yourself. If you see that vision, if you see that pathway, because like I said, a lot of people didn't see it until I had to show it to them. And like they're the same way that it was for me with shoes. Like that, I mean, for the girl that's watching this that does eyelashes on the side, or fucking a tattoo artist that takes clients every so often, that's just like still working another job to kind of like make ends meet, and like not fully know like if they have the ability to have consistent clientele, and just like commit. Like you got to commit to your craft, you got to commit to the education, to learning to better your craft, bring better value to your clientele, and like you'll be straight. You'll be more than happy with where you are a year to 2 years from after, when you fully know that you gave everything that you possibly could. And like if worse comes to worse and things don't work out, like you don't live with that regret. Like I think that's the main thing that I just like can't do, is just, and I think that's why I dive so deep into everything that I'm like interested in, is because I just don't ever want to look back like 2 to 3 years and like the time be gone, and like that situation be like fully bypassed, and like think to myself like, oh shit, well, if I would have just done this, or like saw where this went, like where would I be, or what doors would have opened, what new people would be in my network. Like it's gonna be scary, it's unknown, but that's with everything in life. Like yeah, like you can plan to be a nurse and then study to be a nurse for 5 years, and first couple days in the hospital just see some shit that scars you, and it's just like, oh shit, like you didn't plan, like yeah, you planned to be a nurse, but like you didn't plan to see somebody's fucking head get shot off. Like you, like there's a lot of times where it's just like the unknown, and like when you're in that situation, you sink or you swim, and it's like you have to be uncomfortable at times, and that's really what shows how strong of a person you are, and how level-headed and just like passionate, or what could be the word? I think like dedicated, like how dedicated you are to your craft, and how dedicated you are to like your dreams. Because I mean, I'm very passionate about my dreams, and if like somebody were to ask me like, okay, well, like what do you want, or where do you see yourself in a couple of years, or what do you plan on doing, like I could give that straight answer, and like know that like I have a blueprint. I know it may not be 100% where I'm gonna be in 6 years, but at least I have some type of pathway to like, this is what I'm interested in. And like if I'm trying to get to point A to point B, and I stumble upon something in the middle, and another path comes up to get to point B faster, then so be it. Like, we're there. And like, but if you don't fully commit, you never even get started to it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that'd be my very best advice, just because it took a lot for me and my brother to fully commit and like know that this is like serious. But once we did, it was like total game changer. Like, you have the time to do it, you have the headspace. So yeah, it's definitely what needs to happen.
And what people forget also is, like, they think they're so like mixed up in thinking about like all the things that like could go wrong, you know. But like, first of all, like, there's so many possibilities that can happen. There's no sense in you trying to like predict what's gonna happen, you know.
You're like playing a movie in your head, and it's just like, oh, okay, well, I used to do this dumb thing with my brother, and it was like, oh, like, if you make a bad decision, like, that bad decision is gonna lead to this bad decision, and then that bad decision. So I was like, oh, like, you don't go to school, you don't graduate, you don't graduate, you don't get a good paying job, you don't get a good paying job, you don't get no girls, like, it was just like boom, boom, boom. And it, like, in a sense, that's what people do when they're just like doubting themselves. It's like, okay, yeah, like that, all of those scenarios could happen. Most likely it won't happen. Like, what, like, you're spending so much time thinking about, like, okay, this is the negative, and then from that negative, this negative. And like, from a business perspective, okay, I start a business, I buy materials, I buy my overhead expenses, and then I get no clientele, and then I claim bankruptcy, and then I have a shitty credit score, and then I can't buy a house, and then I can't buy a car. And it's just like, you don't have to keep digging yourself in like a shitty hole. Like, there's a lot that, I mean, running a business, there's definitely negatives, and there's definitely times where it's like a low point. There's a lot of times where the business is at a very high point, that it makes those low points seem almost slim to none. That it's like, you can't be, you just won't be driven by a negative mindset. You have to change that. You have to, and that just starts with being like mentally prepared for what you signed up for, and just like in the right headspace to take on the task that's at hand. And if you're not, then the first step is really getting right with yourself, so that way your business or your passion doesn't take a hit because you're not fully prepared yourself. So
and you also can't, you have to also know the value of, even if you don't it doesn't fully pan out the way you expected, the stuff you're gonna learn from that is gonna be like, even if you do fail, hypothetically fail, you still learn so much from that.
It's a win. Like, okay, the overall vision may have taken a detour to the left, but like,
look at all these people I met.
Look at all of the business structure of like, starting a business. Like, most people, like, including myself, like, I would talk to business owners, and I'm like, how do you start a business? Like, being a business owner now, like, that's a super hard question to answer. Like, everybody starts businesses in different ways, and business moves in all types of directions, that there's no real one right or wrong way of doing something, or right or wrong way of opening and starting and running a business. That the answers aren't there, you know. Like, in school, it's not like, hey, like, step one to starting a business, like, go open a LLC, or like, go open a business bank account, just get your EIN number, register with this. Like, you have to go out and look for that information, or be with the right type of network that point you in the direction to make it a little bit easier. But yeah, like, it's that really is just what it comes down to with trying to start something. You're not gonna know, and you just have to kind of piece it together and try to get that team going, and just like make it a little bit easier on yourself, because that information is not readily available. And it sucks to say, but the opportunity to be an entrepreneur and really excel at it is for everybody, for the taking, really, if you really have that motivation to do it. It's just a 24/7 job for sure. You're gonna be clocked in.
Hell yeah, bro. But yeah, man, that's episode 9.
Oh, great pod, bro. I lost track of time for sure.
Yeah, episode 9 of the MVP.
I learned some shit about myself too.
Yeah, that's insane, bro. But it's always good talking, and I'm glad I was able to get my boy on here, like the fam.
Yeah, very long overdue. So thank you. Thank you for all the viewers of the pod for tuning in, even though it was a very long conversation.
Yeah, hell yeah. But where can people find you, bro? What's your Instagram? Where's your business located at?
Dope. So my Instagram is at Deeternal, DEETRNL. And then if you guys ever want to stop by the storefront, we're right by the airport off in El Paso, right off Hawkins, Montana. It's 8409 Lockheed Suite 25. So,
Suite 25, baby.
Yep, can't miss it. Red door. But yeah, I appreciate you, my brother. I really like to see where the pod is going and just excited to see the growth. Episode 9, and you're almost making that corner for 10.
Yes, sir.
Proud of you.
Yes, sir. But yeah, man. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. If y'all have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments or reach out to us on Instagram. Hope to see you guys next time.
Yeah, thank you.